Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's conversation. We're going to be taking a look inside the GigaOm Radar report for Service Mesh, really taking a deep dive into the report's criteria, Gray Matter's leadership, and where the Service Mesh market is headed. My name is Taylor. I'm a part of the marketing team here at Gray Matter IO. And for our speakers today, we have Jon Collins. He's a field CTO at GigaOm. John's really here to provide industry insights and a market overview for us. And we also have Jim Gaspari, who's a solutions architect at Gray Matter IO. Jim's going to lean more into how Gray Matter performed in the radar report and really the benefits of our zero trust networking platform. So, John and Jim, do you want to give a little background and info about yourselves?
So Jim Gaspari, I am a solutions architect here at Gray Matter, and I have been in the industry for almost 20 years. Started out doing various Linux, getting into security, now working in the cloud and service mesh. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so I wish I'd only been in the industry 20 years. Uh, I've actually my career's been a kind of weird mix, but it tends to have been. I started as a developer. I worked for GCHQ, which is our NSA. That's what we have over here. And I worked in operations, and I was doing kind of software development and operations in a secure environment in a communications headquarters. So it's kind of DevSec ops and networking is my entire background. And then I discovered this thing called being an industry analyst, which means people don't shout at you anymore and you just write things. And I thought this is great. So that's why you find me here.
Great. Thank you both for that background about yourselves. To really set the scene for the conversation today, we're going to be focusing on the what, the why, and the where. The what the report is and kind of where the market's at right now. The why does this report matter? Why does Gray Matter's performance matter? And the where are things headed in the next 3 to 5 years? So let's go ahead and start with the what. John, I think we can kick off with you here. For listeners who haven't even read it yet, what is the GigaOm Radar report for Service Mesh, and what does it say about where the market is currently?
Let me start with just 10 seconds on what is GigaOm, because essentially we are you, practitioners, people that have worked in the field, people that have been shouted at, people that have wielded a screwdriver or written software or whatever, people that have worked for or been the CIO, and we are now, just as I am, very delighted to actually have some brain space to think about this stuff. So literally, we're not trying to kind of invent opinions and throw them out there. We're trying to be the same people we always were, but learn about the market and uh, how to solve specific problems with specific types of technology. And so service mesh within that, clearly it's meeting a very, very important need within the cloud native space and beyond, to solve for enabling observability, security, just the networking piece in those container-based microservices environments. And the the interesting thing about it is, I think what we can say for service mesh is it's meeting a need, but then the need is evolving quite rapidly because of the way the market's going. But so it's always a bit tricky to how do you evaluate in such a fast moving space. But what we do with the radar is we take that practitioner lens, we think, what are the problems you're trying to solve right now? Then what are the things that every product in this space should be able to do? And what are the things that differentiate and actually help you solve the problems of today and moving forward? And we call the things that are actually the most important things that aren't the table stakes, we call them key criteria. So we write a separate key criteria report that says here's the things that really matter in this space right now. And then we essentially do a spreadsheet exercise. We go out to all the vendors, we test the products, we read the documentation, and we work out some numbers, and all of that feeds into a radar, which then gives us. It doesn't give winners and losers. It gives more or less suitable for different kinds of scenarios, and it's very important to read the radar in that way. It's a tool. It isn't a beauty contest.
Great. Thank you, John. And Jim, to kind of piggyback off of that, Gray Matter landed as a leader and outperformer for the fourth year in a row, something we're extremely proud of. What did the report most clearly validate about Gray Matter?
Most of our customers, when they're going through and they're looking at us for zero trust, they're usually trying to meet a need. So a DoD standard, a NIST standard, some kind of validation. Um, it can be FIPS, STIG requirements for within the zero trust uh, realm. So as we start talking to our customers and we start seeing these things with the zero trust, it's a lot of being directed down. Now, what Gray Matter stands out with this is we make it very easy and can automate the entire MTLS communications. But it's not just that, it's the this application can only talk to this database, and this database will only accept communications from these other things. And that's how the zero trust actually plays out, should play out in the real world. And when you can isolate and do that, it makes it so much more secure and easier in the long run to find various other things that shouldn't be there.
Great. Thank you both for those responses. And let's go ahead and start leaning into the why. Why does this report matter? Why does Gray Matter's performance matter? We felt like when we were reading the report, these three forward facing pillars of service mesh really stuck out to us, that being zero trust, observability, and control plane architecture. So I kind of want to walk through those three pillars here, starting with zero trust first. John, what did the report focus on when researching vendors, and what matters most for an enterprise considering a zero trust vendor?
It's I'm going to sound like well, I'm literally going to flip the argument here. The thing isn't about zero trust, but it is about zero trust. It's about zero trust with minimal overhead, because you can do zero trust any which way. It's just it will cost you a lot. And so, what we were very keen to do when we thought about security in general and zero trust in particular, uh, in the in the service mesh context, was how can you deliver on zero trust without having a team of 20 people in order to make it work. So it's very much about configurability, and it's very much about the out of, I call it out of box experience, but essentially that the deployment cost, if you like, that how do you get up and running, and we've got to be realistic here that complex environments require time to configure. We're not trying to say that there's this imaginary world where you can just kind of push a button and everything just falls into place. But being able to minimize the manual effort, we graded on that, and then also the other side of the coin, if you like, the North Star, and particularly for more regulated industries, but for all industries, is standards orientation. So how well can you deliver on zero trust in a way that actually then enables you to conform with the standards and prove that you're conforming with the standards? That's pretty much how we graded on zero trust.
Excellent. Thank you, John. And Jim, again, to follow up here, this is a standout area for Gray Matter, not only in the report, but in general. We're known as a zero trust networking platform. So, can you tell us where do you see customers applying our zero trust capabilities the most?
Most of our customers, when they're going through and they're looking at us for zero trust, they're usually trying to meet a need. So a DoD standard, a NIST standard, some kind of validation. It can be FIPS, STIG requirements for within the zero trust uh, realm. So as we start talking to our customers and we start seeing these things with the zero trust, it's a lot of being directed down. Now, what Gray Matter stands out with this is we make it very easy and can automate the entire MTLS communications. But it's not just that, it's the this application can only talk to this database, and this database will only accept communications from these other things. And that's how the zero trust actually plays out.
Okay, great. Thank you. As we start to focus on the second pillar here, observability, Jon, why is it now table stakes for microservices? And can you dig a little bit more into the report and what was recognized about gray matter here?
It may be table stakes for microservices, but it's not table stakes in terms of what all the vendors provide. I'll emphasize that point. I'm reusing the term table stakes in two different ways there. It does extend what I was saying before about operational efficiency. It's very, very important to get a picture across your environment of what's networking with what, where the problems are, et cetera, et cetera. And I always I go back to the original definition or informal definition of observability. It's when you're trying to fix a problem, it becomes like a whodunit. It's literally you've no idea where the problems come from, even though it's manifesting across the application or the environment. So it's a lack of observability that we're solving for, and being able to do that at reduced cost. That does mean not just people costs, but then also the costs of log management, the costs of licensing of the technologies that you're using to support it, etc., and the costs of doing it wrong. Just increase your overall overheads in terms of your cloud costs. So when we look at the observability aspect, we're thinking about operational efficiency. We're thinking about how can we run an application without it costing the earth and without having to go back to the budget holders and say, I'm really sorry, but it looks like this application is both mission critical, it's costing far more than we thought it was going to, and we don't know why. But can we have some more money, please? That's literally what we're trying to solve for here. And again, so we were grading vendors in terms of automation, in terms of making that more straightforward operationally, but then in terms of visibility and the overall cost optimization piece as well.
I think it's important that we highlight these three areas you're mentioning, Jon: observability, operational efficiency, visibility. These are big terms we reference a lot when we're talking about gray matter. So, Jim, can you touch on those a little bit more and explain to us how customers are using some of these features day to day?
So when we talk about what gray matter provides to our customers as they're leveraging the technology, so we provide metrics on connections in, connections out, everything that's communicating. Then we layer on top of that user information, right? So who's doing it, what they're accessing, when they're accessing. So not only can you see how the applications are performing through the metrics that gray matter collects, but you can also see response time, all these people who are logging in, what services are they accessing most. So when they say, oh, hey, this service isn't really being used anymore, we can save it some money by killing it or deprecating it in a couple of releases and focusing our energy more on this one, which is giving us some problems. It's the money maker, and this is where we're going to shift our focus, or build the next version of said API application, whatever it may be. We also can now, based on what we see coming in, start doing web application firewall audits as well, so we can see potential risks, incoming calls, misconfigurations, things that will start to trigger problems based on the OWASP top 10. Maybe the developers aren't following best practices in that area, and we can catch those things, and those can be fixed ahead of time as well. So now we have all of this data that can be collected, sent to the NOC, the SOC, and extra level security analysts that can be filtered down, passed off to wherever they need to for all of these metrics to be collected and visualized so that you can actually take those to your stakeholders, your upper management, and they can go and make the business decisions based on all the actual metrics, not just a system administrator saying, yeah, something's not right here. 'Cause I've had that happen way too many times. I'm like, no, this isn't right. Uh, yeah, there's something wrong, but I don't know what. But now I can collect those metrics built into the service mesh that Gray Matter provides and actually prove it. And it's not just, I know it's a gut feeling. I know it. So
Thanks, Jim, for all of that info. Let's go ahead and head into the third pillar now that we were mentioning, control plane architecture. John, on control plane architecture, what did the report validate for vendors? And do you think control plane design decides which vendors can operate at scale?
I mean, all service mesh providers have some kind of control plane. So just saying, have you got a control plane? It's kind of, we didn't differentiate on that. We looked more in terms of what that control plane enables. So we were very interested, for example, in uh, hybrid platform support, in multi-protocol support, in terms of what rules you can assign to enable those things to happen, and how easy is that. I've already covered some of the areas of automation and configurability, etc. But so that's the stuff that makes it more efficient to run. But I think that the things that really jump out, as I mentioned earlier on, about the fact that we're kind of working in a very fast changing environment. The importance of being able to operate at scale in a multi-platform architecture become more and more important. That's very important. That does require a much stronger emphasis on security, on identity management, on uh, access management of one form or another. And I think the thing that we haven't even started to discuss, because we were leaving this till later, but it needs to get a mention, is starting to bring in some kind of agentic capabilities into the control plane. So we're actually able to automate dynamically, if you like. That's the big change. It's not configure and hope that it stays. I always think about operations as having a kind of decay curve. You set stuff up, and then 2 weeks later it's okay. 6 weeks later it's not so okay, and 6 months later it's really starting to look a bit shabby. So adding those agentic capabilities so we can stay within the 2 week window of okayness is really, really important.
Thanks, John. Jim, again, to follow up here, can you tell us a bit more about Gray Matter's control plane architecture and how are customers using it to run high demand environments today?
our our control plane architecture is pretty nice. We are able to leverage various components. So as your applications scale out, we're able to quickly have those check in to the control plane, get their configurations, and add themselves. So if I'm running 3 versions of an app, and for some reason one of those starts going crazy, we'll kick it out, and we will actually just focus on the other 2 that are still good. Right. So as you're coming in, trying to hit this API, one of those API servers start to go hit that 6 week mark because it's been up for way too long. We'll be able to detect that and go, nope, you're not supposed. You're too many problems. Get on out of here, and just focus on. So we can ensure that the customers don't see the problem. Right. The guys in the back who are monitoring these will see the problem, be able to take care of it. But the end users who are accessing your business critical infrastructure, they won't even notice it. When we start doing that, and we can monitor this region with this service, and that region with this service. So as you're going into this hybrid cloud, multi-cloud use case, because that's what we would want to do, right? Isolate who goes where and traffic. If we go out on the east for some reason, right? AWS, Azure has an outage in the east. All that traffic can go to the west, right? Or if a subset inside of a data center starts going bad, we can send it to another data center, right? And we'll automatically be detecting that based on how our control plane works and how our services are constantly communicating to each other. So this helps us to eliminate downtime that would be noticeable by your end users, right? The network guys are going to see it. The network guys are going to know about it because those are the ones we want to know about it. But we don't want the customers or the end users to actually see these issues. So that's how our control plane helps out with that.
And if I can just follow up on that, I think this is the thing. The control plane, it's not about having a control plane. It's about having flexibility in the control plane and having the right kind of feature mix, but then having the visibility so you can make these rapid decisions in terms of what you switch off, what people can see, what people can't see, etc. And what you reroute. Very, very important to have that level of flexibility. And I'm trying to avoid using the word smartness because it gets us into the next section. But yeah, absolutely, Jim.
Great. Thank you both. I actually think we're ready for this next section. So we focused on the what, the why, and I think now we're ready for the where. Where's the industry headed? Where's Gray Matter headed? Jon, let's go ahead again and kick this off with you. Can you please tell us, looking 3 to 5 years out, what will define the next phase of service mesh? And can you tell us what changes or what might stay essential?
3 to 5 years time, what's anything going to look like? But we do have some kind of good idea already, in that we know what businesses are trying to achieve. That's not going to change that much. We know, if I take it really down to basics, we know we'll still need haircuts. We know we still need medical care. We know that we'll still want to get from A to B and travel and transport and holidays and retail and entertainment and all of those things. But what will change is the level of dynamism within the service provision. And what that's going to be based upon is a very, very different integration layer between the services that we currently provide. Today and historically, we've always been building things like cathedrals. We've been building in such a way that things are fixed, and then there's a level of orchestration in operations, but generally the architecture is the architecture for an application. Even with microservices applications, you pretty much you say what your clusters are and you say what your namespaces are, and it's all relatively fixed. Where we're going is that it's all about the white space. It's all about the glue in between. And we're already seeing this with the wave of interest around MCP, which is, it's just another protocol, right? But it's the protocol that enables other things to control every single application that ever existed, if it's switched on. And it's looking like it's going to be switched on in a lot of places. And so that then dictates already the relationship across cloud native applications. And in terms of, I mean, very simple question then, what does observability become? What does policy-based management become? What does, exactly to your point, Jim, in terms of when something goes wrong, how do you control it? What does that kind of chain of activities become? So the clever twist is it becomes all about the control plane, which is why I didn't want to kind of start answering the next question before I finish the last one. We've got to really double down in terms of that management layer, in terms of that policy layer, within service mesh, across service mesh. Zero trust has to evolve, because we're not talking about zero trust within applications. We're talking about managed trust across applications and across environments and across user groups. So you asked me what changes and what stays essential. What changes is the level. We're gonna have to scale this stuff up higher than we've ever scaled it before. And its importance becomes huge, and therefore uh, less and less what we were talking about earlier of the kind of DIY approach. Nobody can get away with that anymore. That changes. But what stays essential are the principles of good design, the principles of well-managed environments, the principles of how to solve something when it goes wrong, and the kind of measures that we put around that. So I can't see this stuff becoming less important as we move forward. I see it as becoming one of the most important, because it's easy to spin up a new service. We're seeing people do that all the time. So services commoditize at that point. When you can vibe code a new customer shopping basket, literally just like that, services commoditize. Integration becomes the most important thing that we're going to have to focus on in the next 3 to 5 years.
Great. Thanks, Jon. And Jim, given that outlook, can you maybe tell us like how well is gray matter matching up with things that Jon's mentioning? And maybe you can give us a little peek into the roadmap of how we're planning to stay ahead in the future.
Gray Matter's roadmap for the next several years focuses on many things, but a lot of it is making the administrator and developer's life easier and more secure. So we're introducing a new CNI, an updated proxy. Uh, we are enhancing various features to make sure that we stay lockstep and ahead of where the developers are actually going to be going. So we have plans to support HTTP3 for the developers. We're going to beat them to it, but that is one of those things where we want to make sure that we are ahead and just waiting on them. So if we have those features in place, like we have HTTP2, we're going to have HTTP3. When it's time to get there, we'll be waiting for them. We're also going to add additional support for virtual machines. I know that there's a lot of legacy applications out there. Last year we introduced EC2 support, but as we're moving into the later half of 2026, we're going to be adding VMware, Azure VMs to natively support, so that we can not only be the service mesh inside of Kubernetes, but we can also protect your legacy services and make sure that they can intercommunicate. Now, this is very helpful for developers and systems people as they do transition from legacy hardware to new cloud native services, so they can actually break apart their applications a little more easily and reliably. AI is all the rage, obviously. Um, we've been looking at what can we do with some of the services. Um, we can protect the APIs, we can protect the MCPs, we can ensure that all the data that's trying to get to wherever it is secured. We're also looking to ensure that we have quantum safe encryption built into the product as well. This is a lot more of a need that it will be coming, not necessarily here today, but computers are getting faster. We need to be, AI's going to be taking a crack at some of these things. We need to make sure that we are also on the forefront of that. We can, with gray matter, you have the ability to actually see what services are using which encryptions, and we can ensure that you are running the latest, regardless of what your application may be running. Right? So we have that. We're also looking at making enhancements to our control plane, making it more robust, reliable. I mean, it's already reliable as it is, but you can always add more features and feature sets. Um, between the admin UI. Those are the things that are coming up in the next couple of years.
Excellent. Well, thank you, John and Jim, so much for dedicating not only your time, but your expertise today and really just taking this inside look of the radar report for service mesh, this sort of deep dive into the report's criteria and Gray Matters leadership. And thanks for your outlook on the industry as a whole. Um, for those of you who are listening and maybe you have not read the radar report yet, we do have a courtesy copy for you. You can go ahead and click the link below. And please do not hesitate to ever reach out if you have any questions or just want to discuss the report with us. So thank you all very much.